All right, welcome to day 9 of 30 in my Star Trek for 30 days review. For day 9, it is Star Trek Nemesis from 2002, aka the franchise killer. So it was pretty great to see it on 4K. This is definitely the best it's looked since I saw it in theaters in 2002 when I worked at the movie theater when this came out. And all I remember, and don't take offense to this, is that as a movie theater worker, me and my coworkers just noticed that people were coming out of the woodwork to watch this movie. Like, you have like your regular crowd, your regular kind of disposition of your regular crowd, but there were very, very unique Star Trek people coming out for Star Trek Nemesis, and it was very noticeable. I won't go into the distinctive features of them because I don't want to get into that, but there was a distinct Star Trek crowd that came out of nowhere to watch this movie in theaters when it first came out. And I enjoyed it when it first came out, but there was something in it that made me very sad. So we're going to go through this movie, what I think about it, my analysis, and also the 4K and if it's worth it over the Blu-ray. But this is one thing I noticed. This is only about a minute and 50 seconds in, the Romulan Imperial Senate. Look at these cool little like statue guys. They have like a giant like pike axe thing. They're all like kneeling down around the Senate thing. I just thought it was cool. I never noticed that before. Okay, as far as the upgrade of this from this set, so the 4K is definitely an upgrade, and it's the best way to watch this for sure. I noticed that there's an uptick in detail. The color gradation, I guess, looks better, not as washed out. And then the Blu-ray, I'm talking about the 2009 Blu-ray, the remastered Blu-ray looks great. But the 2009 Blu-ray had like dirts and specks and stuff. So in addition to the digital noise reduction, it had the film actually looked kind of dirty. Not terribly dirty, but the 4K looks really, really nice. Now, that being said, on the set of the 4-movie set, Generations and First Contact, I thought were gigantic, mind-blowing upgrades, whereas Insurrection and Nemesis are upgrades, but to me weren't as like gigantically noticeable. Also, 7 and 8 are better movies than 9 and 10, so I mean that was nice as well. But yeah, those upgrades really like just shot to shot to shot in those movies in Generation and First Contact. I was consistently wowed. Whereas Insurrection and Nemesis, I was just like, okay, yeah, this looks good throughout the movie. It looks good. The colors look correct. It's very clean. The film grain is intact and moving and tingling. But it just didn't wow me like those other two, if that makes sense. So overall, all 4 look outstanding on 4K. It's just the first 2 I think look better. Also check it out. So Wedding Reception for these two. I wish it was for these two. She has hardly anything to do in these movies. But look at this little guy. It's little baby Space and Time Mozart. Back from his space adventure to go to the reception. Nice. That's Wesley Crusher if you didn't catch that. I thought Picard's best man speech was actually pretty touching. So at first it's like he's like telling jokes and trying to be silly, but then he looks at Riker and talks to him and looks at Troy and talks to her, and then he says this to kind of close it out, and I thought this was a really awesome line.
You are my family.
Aww. Oh, she's gonna cry.
And in best maritime tradition?
Speaking of Wesley, there's actually a really great deleted scene of him during this part that I think the movie, I guess it's not super needed because he's not a character throughout the movie, but it's a really nice scene with him, and also with Beverly. There's so many deleted scenes with Beverly. They chopped her part down. But look at Worf. He's having like a Romulan ale hangover. But also, I think his head's in his hands, not just because Romulan ale, but he might have a reason for drinking the Romulan ale, which might be the reason he might not be happy at a wedding right now, at this stage in his life. All right, so here is something about the Enterprise E that I've never noticed before, but my goodness. So this is 4 years after the last movie, like real people time. But the new CG model that they have for the ship is so much more detailed. Look at this thing. You can see all the little paneling, the little square panels. It's kind of blown out a little bit on my phone. Just to give you an idea. So much more detailed. Look at that happy Troy face. She's pretty somber for a lot of this movie for a really good reason, but it's nice to see her smiling at the beginning. All right, in this wild dune buggy action scene, which was felt a little out of place in a Star Trek movie, but it was still fun. They're riding away from these guys, getting shot at, and it shows this shot really quick. And what stood out to me above everything else on this very bright, very washed out planet, because that's how it was intended to look. And my wife's like, why are they not, talking about the main character, she's like, why are they not wearing sunglasses? And it's like, well, you can't cover up the actor's eyes. But look at this. Look at these guys. They have sunglasses on. Good job. So yeah, I saw these aliens. I'm like, oh, at least they're wearing sunglasses. So this movie took the Enterprise going to warp speed to another level, and this part in particular was really cool. Like, notice coming out of the nacelles, like there's almost like a streak or some exhaust, not exhaust, but anyway, just check it out. This is very cool and dynamic warp scene. Yeah, that looked good. So they're doing the Star Trek thing here and having their little council meeting at their little table. But one thing they're doing different that they don't normally do that I think is very practical is they've all got little cups of water in front of them. Look at that. Look at that. It's like someone had a good idea and they're like, you know what, we should have been doing this for the last 10 years. So watching Data work on watching Geordi work on a Soong type android again, and realizing how much he's done that at this point in his life. And they're always talking about, Dr. Soong made this, Dr. Soong made this. And, it's such a rare thing. And these androids are so limited. But really, like, Geordi's become quite the hands-on expert. He's always opening them up and doing stuff with these androids. That didn't sound right. Okay, so Shinzon's ship shows up. And they just dump some technical information about his ship on you. And by the reaction of the crew, you realize, oh, that's really significant. Or if you're just a nerd and you're like, yeah, I know stuff, that's really significant. But I decided to look it up and share the numbers. So first we're going to hear these numbers about the bad guy ship that's getting these guys all rattled. Listen to this.
Raising shields.
No, Captain.
Tactical analysis, Mr. Wolf.
52 disruptor banks, 27 photon torpedo bays, primary and secondary shields.
Okay. 52 disruptor banks, 27 torpedo bays, and then a bunch of super shocked looks from everyone on the bridge. All right, so for proper context of why I think they're kind of freaking out, is this guy right here, Enterprise E, has the following. It has 16 phaser banks and 10 torpedo launchers. So the disruptors are like the equivalent of the phaser banks. So the Shinzon ship, the Scimitar, I believe it's called, has 52 disruptor banks or whatever it's called to the Enterprise 16. And then they have 27 torpedo launchers compared to the Enterprise's 10. So I think when they heard that and they're there on a diplomatic mission, I think they were like, oh, crap, this thing's serious. All right. As much as I am a fan of main characters doing stuff and just being in every shot and everything, they've kind of set a precedence. And so this is their away team. I mean, it is a diplomatic mission, so maybe that's why it's different. Let's say that. Let's say it's different because it's diplomatic. But look who's here, okay? So Troy and Worf, counselor, security, sure. You have the captain, and then his first officer, and they don't say this too often, but Data is his second officer. First in command, second in command, third in command. They literally have the top 3 senior officers on this away mission. So like they all leave the bridge and just like some dude goes and sits in it. And they do have some dude will take the con every once in a while, but I was like, man, they are all 3 captain, first officer, second officer. So hope this mission goes well and they don't wipe out their top 3 guys. Anyway, it just every once in a while there's those little breaches in like logic. I know Picard has been pretty like cavalier lately, where he's just like, I do what I want. I go on dune buggy missions and stuff. But all 3 of them, dang. Okay, so we got little baby Tom Holland, yay. But this person right here, I did not realize who she was until the credits. And I guess that means good acting and good makeup. But check this out.
How deep?
You know who this is?
What must a commander do to prove herself faithful to you? What must a woman do?
This, boop, is Dina Meyer, who plays Dizzy Flores in Starship Troopers, the fun but bad adaptation of my favorite book. So Dizzy from Starship Troopers. Also, look at the makeup. They're trying to make it look like there's like ridges on their forehead, but really you can just see it's like highlights and lowlights and stuff in the makeup. Well, there might be a little bit right there. Anyway, that's Dina Meyer. The credits were rolling and it said she's in it. I'm like, who? And apparently it's her. She did a good job. I didn't even recognize her. Here we get Picard basically giving us, I don't know about a moral lesson, but just like the moral code of Federation right here, talking about what the ideal is.
If there is one ideal that the Federation holds most dear,
That's a cool
it is
shot right
that
there.
all men, all races can be united. What better example? A Starfleet captain standing in the Romulan Senate.
Aw, everyone being united. What a good goal. All right, absolute low point in the movie for me is this part in Riker and Troy's quarters when pretty much an unwanted assault happens through like mental like projection, and it's really awful, and it's definitely a big reason of the PG-13 of this movie, and it really brings the tone down into like very serious. And then actually what makes it a little bit worse is when Picard asks her to endure more assaults like this so that they can get the bad guy, and it's like, dude, that is a horrible thing to ask somebody to do. And then fortunately he gets kidnapped by the enemy right after he says that, because it's like, yeah, that's BS and she should not have to do that. So she asks Picard to be relieved of her duties because of the situation, and he says the thing that I said just barely, where basically asks her to endure more. And I was going to show this little part, and I'm like, man, I don't even want to, because I think it's so out of character for him to ask that of her, and I think it's super unethical, and it just does not seem like something Picard would do. So like I said, I'm really glad he gets kidnapped out of there before he can follow through with that. It was ridiculous. Also, there's a deleted scene of more of that stuff, and I'm glad that's gone. The original length of this movie was 45 minutes longer. Some of the deleted scenes I mourn because they were so good, but there were others that I'm like, good riddance, because they're awful. So there's sneaky Data pretending to be B4, the silly, simple android. But Data is about to do a Vulcan thing. Check this out. With little fanfare. He just Vulcan neck pinched that guy to unconsciousness. It's great. So you basically have Spock and Data that can Vulcan neck pinch. Too bad Data can't mind meld. Oh, I think they do mind meld androids in Star Trek Picard Season 1. Ugh. Just another reason why that first season. There's actually a lot of from Nemesis that is in Season 1 of Picard, like B4 being disassembled and stuff. Anyway, here's Season 3 of Picard's good. So during this crazy shoot-'em-up escape scene in the Scimitar, where they're flying a ship around in the halls, totally reminded me of something. Look at this. Flying around in the halls. It reminded me of this. Descent 2, the computer game. Where you fly around in little hallways and battle other ships flying around in little hallways. It was totally like on this movie. And just so you know, if you want to play this game, the system requirements are as follows. You need to have DOS CD-ROM Windows 95/98. You got to have a IBM PC compatible 486. Most of you won't know what that is. You got to have 25 megabytes of hard drive space. You need to have 8 megabytes of RAM. So most of you probably can't run this, but it's a fun game, and it's just like this part in the movie. So here we are at another conference scene. No cups of water this time, though. I love these scenes in the show, movies, everything. I love this, them talking together. But this one in particular, they're about to go most likely do a battle, and Picard says something here, and it's actually very foreshadowing and adds weight to the rest of the movie. So listen to this.
He must not be allowed to use that weapon. All other concerns are secondary. You understand me?
Look at that.
Yes, sir.
So she's speaking very seriously, looking around, making eye contact. The camera's like, look at all these people. Look at them. These are your people. And he just said, no matter what it takes, we can't let this weapon be used. So I think that adds weight, and I think it's good foreshadowing. So I like that part. I just realized that this scene that's using a huge amount of graphics in the TV show would have just been solved with a line of dialogue. So Picard asked Data, he's like, hey, how long until we get to the fleet? And then Data's like, it's going to be this. And it's like this graphical overlay so that us as the audience sees where everybody is. But this is the fleet they're trying to join. Spoiler alert, they're not going to make it there. But this is Battle Group Omega. So I always like, I don't know if you can see that. I always like to pause it on these parts to see if there's anything cool in here. So you've got the Intrepid, the Valiant, the Galaxy, Ares, Nova, Hood. We've seen the Hood before. And then the Archer, which is most likely named after Archer from Enterprise. Here we have Picard lecturing on how to be a better person, and I love it. I think this is a very good Picard moment, and it's very in line with his character.
And what will you do with that life? Waste it in a blaze of hatred? There is a better way.
It's too late.
Never, never. You still have a choice. Make the right one now.
I can't fight what I am.
Yes, you can.
Anyway, I like it. I like that. I like the message. The message is it's never too late to start making right choices. Like no matter where you're at. I mean, you're gonna have to deal with the consequences of your choices. But I like that what he says. Boop. Good old Space Dad Picard giving us good advice to make good life choices. So here we have some classic 60s Star Trek lighting. The strip of light across the eyes as she's mentally connecting to the baddies who got really, what did she call it? A violation. So they did that earlier. So this is like a kind of a cathartic revenge moment. But look at that lighting. Look at that classic 60s
Resisting.
lighting. All right, so when this movie first came out in 2002 and I worked at the movie theater, I saw it on 35 millimeter. It was great. I liked it. It is definitely the weakest one. And it has a part in it that's just heartbreaking. But I liked it, and I was really bummed that there weren't more after this. So Roger Ebert's review from December 2002, when it came out, December 13th, 2002, is pretty brutal. He gives this movie a 2 out of 5 stars. And he just talks about how he feels like Star Trek is tired. He says, how many movies do I have to watch someone talk about the shields being down to 60%? And he trashes it pretty good. It's actually a really good read. I recommend it. I hear what he's saying, but how many times could I hear someone talk about shields being down to 60% while in a space battle? Infinite times. That's how many times I will listen to that. So I hear what he's saying where it's getting old. And at the end of the review, he says it's a copy of a copy of a copy. And it does feel that way a little bit. This one does. However, it is still a space adventure with my favorite crew. Well, one of my favorite crews. So I still enjoy it. Again, a bad Star Trek movie, which this one is kind of approaching that territory, is still more enjoyable to me than most of what's coming out nowadays. So I really like Roger Ebert's review. I can't necessarily say I disagree with it. I'm just not tired of Star Trek like he is. So like I said earlier, this movie was actually 45 minutes longer in the original cut. So there's a ton of deleted scenes in the special features. And some of them are, like I said earlier, just like, blah. But there's a few that I mourn their loss. One is the alternate ending is way better. The deleted scene is so much better, to the point where, like, that's the way that in my brain, that this movie ends. And then they cut out a ton of Crusher's lines. Like, there's a scene right at the end where Picard's like basically on a video phone call with Crusher, Beverly, and she's like, they're like totally separate places, and she's like, you should come visit me. And he's like, I'm really busy. And she's like, yeah, I'm busy too, but you should come visit me, because they need to get married. Again, the book Q Are Cordially Uninvited. Well, it's not a book, it's a novella, and I definitely recommend it, with Picard and Crusher in there. There's also a really good deleted scene with Picard and Data talking about life and death and meaning, and it's a very great scene. It's pretty long, so I could see why they cut it, but yeah, the deleted scenes are good. This set right here is awesome, and I'm so glad I bought it, and it's super worth it, and they're all significant upgrades, specifically Generations and First Contact, but Insurrection and Nemesis are also very worthwhile upgrades. So this has been your day 9 of 30 in my 30 days of Star Trek review. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of this movie. A lot of people hate it. It's kind of known as the franchise killer. So yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.